Welcome to the France 24 debate, how a scandal can steal the spotlight from a remarkable achievement. When the Spanish women won the World Cup on Sunday, the 20th of August, they would have been forgiven for thinking their names would be making headlines for weeks, months, even years. It is the case, but now it's because of the scandal over that unwanted, unsolicited kiss that was forced on a star player, Jenni Hermoso, by the head of the Spanish Football Association, Luis Rubiales. It was an act that lifted the lid on the casual sexism of sport, but with a more sinister twist at the same time. A man in power forcing himself on a woman whose career could rise or fall on his say-so. You get the picture. Our guests to discuss the fallout over this forced kiss affair are, Sarah Morris, our correspondent in Madrid, who is standing by to join us. Sarah, a very good evening to you. Sarah, across all aspects of this story. Here in the studio, Ayodele Ikwesan, who's a French Olympic sprinter and European vice champion in the 4x100 metres relay. That means you're a silver medalist, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
That is an achievement. Well done to you and respect. Sitting opposite Ayodele is a man I respect hugely. Frequent visitor to our shores, Ruben Slagter, sports journalist, but most of all, football expert. I always rely on Ruben for these things. At Eurosport. Great to see you. Now, before I let our panel loose discussing the situation, let's get an update on the current situation regarding this scandal, the forced kiss, Luis Rubiales, Catherine Kedder-Clifford here at France 24 with this.
Describing a watershed moment for gender equality in Spanish sports, the country's sports minister said Luis Rubiales' grabbing and kissing of player Jenni Hermoso was sparking needed change.
It's over. No more discrimination for women, no more obstacles for women in sport. It's over. It's over, and unfortunately that happened because of an incident that should not have taken place. We are witnessing a real social and sporting backlash which will make this a better country.
The Soccer Federation's regional representatives late on Monday demanded the immediate resignation of their president, Luis Rubiales, who has thus far refused to leave his post. Earlier that day, Madrid erupted in purple as thousands turned out to support Hermoso.
If in front of millions of people, Rubiales had the legitimacy to kiss a female footballer on the mouth, what happens during private training camps?
In another twist to the tale, Rubiales' mother locked herself in a church and began a hunger strike as his family spoke out in his defence.
We want justice to be done and this woman to tell the truth. Jenni, tell the truth.
Meanwhile, Spain's top criminal court has opened an investigation into whether the kiss constituted sexual assault. And Rubiales was suspended by FIFA from all soccer-related activities for 3 months on Saturday. More than 80 Spanish players are on strike until Rubiales is gone.
Tico, Jennifer Hermoso, that was the message there from those footballers. Let's bring in Sarah Morris for our first bite at this story. Sarah, you've been covering it from the very start. Give us a sense of what's been said in Spain today.
Well, really, in Spain, the government is still hoping that it can force Luis Rubiales out of his federation job. But they're still waiting for a decision of that court, that sports administrative court, as to whether this could be constituted as a serious or very serious offence. But generally, the Spanish left-wing socialist government has been very critical since Sunday, and they see this as a case of sexual aggression. And they think that, as they put it, they've said that although we saw in public Jenni Hermoso kissed by her boss, they say in private many other women are victims of sexual harassment in other workplaces, and that they would like this to be the Me Too moment of Spanish football. They'd like something to be done about it. They even would like the public prosecutor to take this case further, but that relies on Jenni Hermoso herself making a formal complaint in addition to her statement which she put out on her social media, in which she said initially she was quite shocked after receiving that kiss, but that later she reflected about it and felt that she had been vulnerable and that she was the victim of an aggression.
Sarah, two observations. First of all, Sanchez, the Prime Minister, may be seeking political capital on this one. If he is, that's politics, but also he's right, I think, to be saying what he's saying. The other thing is the onus then on Jenni Hermoso to actually come forward and do this. That's putting pressure on the victim.
That's what a lot of women's rights groups say, and a lot of women's rights groups say that Hermoso has been victimized, first of all, in that big speech that Luis Rubiales gave to the Federation when he said 5 times he would not resign. And later, he then went on to discredit or to try to discredit that the kiss was forced on her, and he said that it was mutual. And we've seen some women's rights organisations say that that is textbook behaviour in the way that victims then become the focus of any kind of discussion, and that the onus is on them to defend their story. And very quickly there is division among women's rights groups as the perpetrator manages to step aside. That's certainly what the Equalities Minister Irene Montero has said about this.
Indeed. Sarah, I hope you can stay with us for the whole programme, because I know you've got lots to say to us. Sarah Morris, our correspondent in Madrid. Victim shaming, it's the oldest trick in the book, isn't it, to do those kind of things. Sarah, thank you very much indeed. Let's bring our guests in the studio then. We've got Ayodele Ikwesan, who's a silver medalist in the European sprinting, and Ruben Slagter from Eurosport. Can I start with you, please, Ayodele? This idea that the victim has to basically come forward and put herself under even more pressure to take this forward. It seems to me very distasteful. What's your sense of the situation?
I agree with you. What happened, everybody saw it on TV. And
did you watch it happen?
Yeah, I saw it. What happened?
What did you think?
I was just wondering what's going on. Why is it kissing her? So they won, and we were supposed to celebrate the great achievement of the Spanish team, and so we saw this case, and everybody was wondering what was happening. I was asking questions to myself. So why is he doing this? He's supposed to be the Spanish president of the Football Federation, so he's not supposed to behave that way anyway.
You're a top-line athlete yourself, okay? How would you have felt if someone from your federation, some guy from the federation, grabbed you like that and hauled you in
and forced a kiss on my lips? I think I'll be shocked.
Even forced la bise à la française, but it was the big hug thing and dragging in as well.
It's kind of shock, but you can't do anything at the moment. You don't realize what's happening. So you just get your medal, you won a title, and you're happy. And you see someone who's your president who comes watch, and people are saying, yeah, she should have behave differently, but was she supposed to push him? Was she supposed to slap him? Was he supposed to have another reaction?
It's difficult because, Ruben, you'll bear us out on this one. I mean, the federation president's word in terms of who gets selected, it may not be final, but I'm sure there's some influence.
There will be, and we know that the head coach of the team is a good friend of him and who has been all covered all the time, because to be fair, this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this kiss is disgusting, but it's all for many years already with the Spanish women's team. There has been so many incidents we have seen. There were a lot of players who weren't even there because they don't want to play for Spain anymore. I mean, Spain has such a talented generation in women's football, and we should be talking about it because they're doing quite a good job, the clubs in Spain, for example. But this federation, and this is just the pinnacle, and wouldn't he have done it, we wouldn't have even been talking about it. But if you follow it just a little bit, you know that there has been so many incidents with him, with Vilda, the head coach, who is still also in place, and where there's a lot of players who don't want to play under him. Yeah, it's just a disgusting situation.
For the benefit of our viewers who maybe don't know as much as you know and as much as you've told me, can you give us a bit more about sort of the type of things that have been going on in Spanish football, Spanish women's football?
Well, since Vilda is a coach who didn't have a lot of experience when he came there as a head coach of the French women's team, and the players, they didn't feel really comfortable with him. At least that's what they said. He had some strange rules, like keeping the doors open at night when they were in the hotels because he wanted to see if everybody was still there, and all this kind of stuff.
That's something that even I think school teachers don't do.
Medieval stuff, and you think,
a bit weird, isn't it?
How is it possible that he can still stay there? But this is going on for years, right? Because Rubiales was all the time defending it. Now even the coach wants Rubiales to go, but it's all just about power and having influence and being on the top in a world like football. That's the whole issue.
That power thing that you point out, I think is really interesting, because you mentioned, of course, with a selector, with a player. Obviously, there's that power thing going on. There was a scandal going back to the 1970s in the UK in English football with people whose position could have given young boys a chance to play for a club were abusing them. Yeah, it's horrific stuff that was exposed. It's there is this dynamic within sport which frankly stinks.
And we can just replace the country and the sport, right? I mean, there have been so many. Also, just in this Women's World Cup, we had the incidents with the Zambian national team, for example, where the coach was at least players were saying that they had to sleep with him to have a place in the team. That's just okay. Every time we hear stories, and now we're just talking about football, but we can just replace the sport and the country, and there are so many stories, and still this whole coach, or let's say coach pupil relation is so dangerous.
Ayodele, what's your experience been coming through the system? Have you experienced any kind of that sense of adult intimidation in growing up as an athlete?
Not me personally, but
good.
Like you said, yeah, good. But like you said, I think you can replace the sport, you can replace the country. It's you have the issue with the power. You have this the like Rubiales or the coach. They are the one who are selecting the athletes to the team. So you can't talk. So as you said, there used to be incidents and people were hearing of it, but if you say something to the federation, then you're talking to your coach, and it's the same president, and they're the ones supposed to make things change, but they're also responsible for this incident. So nothing is changing, nothing is moving. So it's quite difficult for athletes to speak out and to say what's going on. And in most of the case, you have a lot of athletes that stop going to selections, that just stop practicing because they've been victims of things that they don't want to hear about anymore. And so you can see he doesn't want to resign. And so now we're talking about a video who's going on the social media saying that maybe after she was not that shocked. So you are talking about the victim shaming, and it's always the same procedure and the same mechanism. So what happens is like we're trying to find evidences that could say that it was not that horrible, that maybe she showed some signs that it could give her a kiss. But it's not that point. The point is that they won the world. They are the world champion. They were the World Cup, and we were supposed to talk about what they did, the achievement. And so you have this president of the federation that forced a case, and now all the media are just talking about was it a forced case or was it anything else? And the fact is that if we can just imagine if there was no videos and if it was not in live, what would have happened? So nobody would talk of it, and would just say that maybe we misunderstood what happened.
It's overshadowing completely this massive achievement of the women's team.
This is really important, right? We are just talking about the details. Okay, it's a kiss and it's disgusting. We agree on that. But the whole issue is that there is this whole football federation. For me, the biggest issue is that he afterwards goes to a conference and he is saying 5 times, I won't go, and gets a round of applause.
A round of applause from everybody, including the women's coach.
It shows how bad this federation is organized, or how many friends Rubiales has.
Indeed, Rubiales. We're talking about him. We should be talking about the great achievement of the women's team, and we will acknowledge that because it is a great achievement. Let's bring in Sarah Morris, who's our correspondent in Spain. Sarah, thank you for holding on, and I hope you're able to follow what Ruben and Ayodele have been saying here in the studio. This forced kiss. I take it this can be seen in some ways as a straw that's broken the camel's back, to coin a phrase, as to the wider culture within the Spanish Football Federation?
That's right. That's exactly the phrase that Jenni Hermoso used herself. She said that this showed a wider culture of manipulative methods in the federation. And we've also seen other players, because some of the protests of these players went back as far as 2015 under a former trainer even. And in fact, there's a documentary that is now being re-released showing some of the women having their faces squeezed, kisses planted on their cheeks, generally a rather...
Sadly, we lost Sarah Morris there in full flight, which is a shame because she was making a really good point. We'll get back to Sarah as soon as we can. Ayodele, can I raise an issue about the method of celebration? I mean, obviously, tell us what you think. I mean, people hug. That's one thing, isn't it? This was more than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was more.
It was more than that. It was weird, wasn't it? The whole thing.
Yeah, but we talked about power. It was showing that he is the boss, and you can celebrate, you can hug people, you can say congratulations for what you did, but you don't need to touch people this way.
Would he have done that to men, do you think?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Of the thing you said about keeping the doors open in the night, checking if the girls and the women were in their bedrooms, it's something that you don't do to the men, is it? So it shows that there's a different and inappropriate.
For some men teams, it would be good for maybe to keep the doors open.
Maybe,
but that's another story.
That's a different debate. We can go to that one another time.
But you don't see that for men, and I think this is an issue about how people treat women in sport. Because you will have coach who like to check when you come, at what time you're going to bed, your relations and everything, as if we're still kids, and they don't behave the same way when it's men. So I think it was like an expression of power, and he couldn't just do it. Just shows the way he behaves when there's no cameras and in privacy, I think. So this is the way maybe he treats the girls.
It's that whole dynamic you get with male bosses and younger people, particularly young women. There's always this power dynamic going on. It happens in the media, it happens everywhere, and it's frankly disgusting. It's shocking to see it in such an open platform like that. I mean, Rubiales standing holding his groin, making some strange gesture with Queen Letizia next to him. I mean, where's the sense of decorum? This man's like the president of the federation. Surely he should be behaving in a more elegant way.
And these are just two incidents, right? I mean, this is what we've all seen, but like you say, we don't know everything. I never understood why those presidents of federations have to be there when there's a cup handed over. I mean, we're there to watch the players, right?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you.
Why would, if England wins, do we want to have the
Queen Letizia was there? That was enough, wasn't it? Surely.
Yeah, but that's a great gesture, right? You see the Queen, and I remember when France won the World Cup in 2018. You have Macron standing there. That's all fine, but
he's the president. Yeah.
I mean, why are you the president of a football federation, or at least in my opinion, is that you're there for those who are practicing your sport, and because you love your sport, and you just want to make it as successful and great as possible, and then. He has no role in the success. I'm sorry.
Indeed, I said it, and you, Ayodele, laughed when I said it in the introduction. A man seeking attention. That's what it's about, isn't it? I think it's all about that. We've got Sarah Morris back. I'm pleased to announce. Sarah, you were telling us about Jenni Hermoso, the victim of this forced kiss. She said that it was the straw that broke the camel's back in revealing what goes on within the Spanish Football Federation.
That's right. She said that was just one incident that people saw in public, but that during the training there were many more incidents. And we've also seen the floodgates broken, more players speaking out. A former player, Veronica Boquete, she has talked and said exactly the same thing. She said that she is pleased that people have seen the behaviour in public in front of the cameras, but she said that is just the tip of the iceberg. And there is a documentary that has been re-shown featuring the trainer Ignacio Quireda, former trainer, where he squeezes the cheeks of players, treats them in a way which seems to be condescending, humiliating. And really, there's been a re-evaluation in Spain of what happened last year when 15 players said they would not play for the women's team while they were subject to what they said was the kind of methods from the management that they said was affecting their mental and physical health. At the time, many sports reporters questioned them, and they were even called silly girls by some of the critics. Since, a lot of reporters in Spain have started to reevaluate that and to wonder if they essentially bought into the federation's spinning and should have explored far more exactly why those women had stepped down. And for instance, at the World Cup, I think Ruben said it earlier, many of the big stars were not in the team either because they refused to play under Jorge Bilda and the existing federation management, or because they were not called up by Jorge Bilda, not selected. And I could mention some of them. Mapi Leon, she was the Champions League winner under Barcelona, and she said that she would be really angry to not go to the World Cup, but she said her values come first. Patri Guijarro, Sandra Paños, they did not go. And some of the top players were persuaded to go back. And since some of the Spanish press have quoted sources saying that they were promised radical changes, and some of those changes have not taken place, but some of the changes led to the victory in the World Cup. And so some critics have said, did the women win despite the training team and despite the federation? And of course, the existing situation is pretty dire. You have the World Cup winners plus up to 80 other players saying they will not play while the existing management continues unless they get real structural change. And we even have 11 trainers saying that they want to tender their resignation. The big question is, will Jorge Bilda, the women's coach, will he be forced out eventually?
Jorge Bilda, this is electric stuff you're revealing here, Sarah, this depth of the objection within Spain. Let's take a listen to some of the World Cup winners who gave their views. Let's take a listen to them, starting with, I think, Misa Rodriguez.
I condemn the applause we saw on television. I want to show my support for Jennifer Hermoso. We will be with her until the end. That's all I can say. I condemn every single applause in that room.
I posted a tweet expressing my support for Jenni Hermoso, but I don't want to make any other kind of comment.
We need to have a much more transparent federation without extra sporting scandals and with people who are interested in both men's and women's football.
Ruben has just been poking fun at me, saying that if all the Spanish players who decided to boycott the squad had been there, England wouldn't have stood a chance in the final. I can't disagree with you. And you reckon they would have won the Euros had they been there too?
Even 2 years ago, for me, they were the best team. That was a fantastic quarterfinal. I remember when England came through a bit lucky, but also I thought that England team, now we're talking again. We're getting back into football, but that England team.
Well, you can for a minute. It's okay.
In 2021, I thought that was they played better than in the last World Cup. But yeah, if you see the depth of this Spanish squad, we're talking about 80 players, 80 top players. This is just incredible.
All because of the behaviour of men.
Yeah, well,
this is nuts.
What we were just hearing. What's interesting was then when the first revelations were there, and those 15 players didn't want to play. There were a lot of journalists who were, I think, also because of the lack of experience of Jorge Bilda. A lot of people were saying, okay, they're just not because they don't want to play under him because he is a bad trainer, just because of the fact that he is not a decent football trainer. But now, finally, we can just talk about the real reasons. And okay, let's just hope now for the good that this will be a real turning point, at least in Spain. And then probably the next 10 years, we know who will win all the major football events.
Out of the corner of my eye, Ayodele is nodding. What's your observation?
No, I agree with what he's saying. Yeah. Also, the images are right now. I think now they're world champion, and so we are hearing their voices, and I'll say the situation is disgusting because as I said before, we're supposed to celebrate with them and celebrate what they did. But now all things that have been going on for years, people are hearing it, and we believe what they were saying, because as you said, you had major players that wouldn't play with the selection, and people were just not hearing it and not taking this information and not asking for answers from the federation, which is different now. People are trying to understand what's going on. They want Rubiales to resign. They want the federation the staff to resign also, because you said the coach is also a part of this situation and has been aware of the incidents and has also some issues, and there's some issues with his behavior. So I think it's for women, it's really important, and for athletes especially, to see that the players, older players, they're supporting Jenni Hermoso, they're all together, and that they won't come back to the selection and play for the team until until Rubiales will resign. So even though it's going to be a tough fight, because as you can see in the pictures and the videos, it doesn't seem really concerned about what's happening, and so it's going to be a strong fight. It's not going to be a simple one. It's going to be difficult for the players, but as long as they stay as a team, they're strong. So.
Indeed. Like you say, he seems very sans souci, not really worried about it at all, but you wonder underneath what's going on. However, let me pause you for a second and let's take a listen to his cousin, who we heard a little earlier in the report which we gave you to set up this debate. This is the cousin of Luis Rubiales, basically stating her case, supporting him 110% and saying he's the victim of a witch hunt. Let's take a listen to her.
I don't think it was anything so serious, but a person should be the target of this kind of witch hunt.
Nuria Dominguez there, another cousin. There was a different cousin in the report, all keeping the same line. Family line, you might expect. They'd sort of support the family member. However, there is a case here which is all over worldwide television where you see the behaviour of the man concerned, which brings us to, I think, if I can come back to Ayodele, something you were saying before about how when someone complains, they complain to someone who's possibly their selector or their manager or their federation chief. There needs to be some kind of independent complaints format, doesn't there? And that might be difficult to set up.
It's difficult to set up. I think they're trying to do this kind of organization in France, but it's quite difficult because you're going to file a complaint, but someone of your federation is going to be aware of the complaint, and they're going to ask if you won't be selected anymore in the national team, so you won't have any medals, any sponsor, anything. So it's really, today it's still difficult to file a complaint. It's still difficult to speak out and to say what's happening with your coach, with your manager. And as we can see, it's in the Spanish Federation, the Football Federation, but it's the same case of most of the federation. You have the president, and you have all the people working for the same president, and so they're all in the same line. So it's difficult for any one of them to speak out or to say something, because if you do, then you lose your job. So this is, and now you need to come back with the media, and so the media can help bring out a situation or an incident you're facing, but still you need to have the support of all your team, all your teammates, your family, and everyone, because it's like you're fighting a real big system. And we can see now in Spain, even though with the videos, even though we saw what happened, and even though they knew they had cases before.
It's beyond question what happened, isn't it? Beyond question. But still, there's I'm not going to resign.
But it's beyond question for 8 years now. Yeah. Imagine, there are already 15 players who were already complaining. So imagine that you're just on your own. It's your word against the word of a coach. Yeah, how can you win?
And it comes back to what I was saying at the start about the whole victim shaming thing that goes on, because the victim of whatever crime and whatever domain, if the onus is on you to come forward and say, look, this happened to me, there's a huge pressure, and it's no wonder why many people who are abused just basically forget about it and try to get on with their lives. And often that doesn't have good results in the long term. Sarah Morris, can I bring you back in? I hope you can hear me there in Madrid. Sarah, of course, is our correspondent there, who's been covering everything as it's developing. Tell us a bit more about Rubiales, the man, his track record. What's his kind of reputation? Give us more on that.
What's very interesting is that there have been a number of scandals that have surrounded Rubiales. He's a fairly controversial figure in Spain, but until this forced kiss, as those players see it, and Hermoso sees it, really he was seen as a figure that was in some ways protected. There is perhaps a broader question about how football is policed. But for instance, there were some issues about the good governance of the federation. His own uncle, Juan Rubiales, actually went to a Spanish anti-corruption prosecutor and complained about Rubiales, saying that he was using federation money to fund orgies at his home. All of this has been denied categorically by Rubiales. But Rubiales was questioned deeply by a lot of people. Also, there was a 24 million commission given to Gerard Piqué, a footballer himself who had a company for setting up the Supercopa in Saudi Arabia. And there were phone calls that between Gerard Piqué and between Rubiales. Lots of people found them quite disturbing. Again, those allegations are being investigated. Was that a conflict of interest? And how is exactly the federation run? The uncle of Rubiales said that he left a job working for Rubiales when Luis Rubiales became somebody who was difficult to talk to. You couldn't. He said stop calling me Luis, call me President, and that he wouldn't be questioned, and that he was mistreating his own colleagues. So we're certainly getting a picture now of Rubiales. The floodgates have broken, and lots of interviews are being given about a man who really took over in 2018 and became all-powerful, because remember, he is also a vice president of UEFA. He has a salary from UEFA of about 250,000 euros, plus his salary from the federation. And so he's a very wealthy, a very powerful man. And many politicians on both sides are questioning him. El Mundo, the centre-right newspaper, even saying that the Spanish socialist government didn't question him or criticize him because they were dead set on the promise Rubiales gave them that he would bring the hosting of the 2030 World Cup to Spain, a joint bid with Portugal and Morocco, and that was why Rubiales was perceived to be untouchable. Of course, all allegations that Rubiales himself would deny.
OK, so we'll put the caveat of alleged on all of that. But nonetheless, the money he's getting paid is phenomenal. Some of his personal habits are questionable, and his behaviour in public at the presentation, I think, is reproachful. So, Sarah, thank you very much indeed for giving us that kind of filling the gaps for us on the Rubiales character. What a character he is indeed. Quite a scamp, you might say. Ruben, that idea of the World Cup meaning so much, that the authorities would overlook his faults in order to let him do that.
But now we are again saying, okay, because this is the obscure side of the beautiful game, right? But I mean, there are so many Rubiales walking out there. We had just a few months ago, I don't say it's completely the same case, but Noël Le Graët leaving here in France with all those scandals around him. As long as you're in so much power and all the money involved in football, then at some point you're just too strong, and the having this World Cup for Spain can be really interesting. And he is probably the only one with all the contacts in the world, in all the federations, to make it happen. It's as easy as that. The whole getting a World Cup in your country is only about politics, and it's only about having the right friends, and probably those right friends are not maybe the best or the nicest people. It's all about money. So yeah, if he is just, again, he is the tip of the iceberg. This kiss is the tip of the iceberg. Maybe he is the tip of the iceberg of the whole.
This is the scary thing, that it's just the tip of the iceberg. There's more. I mean, obviously, I know as a European silver medalist, and respect to you for that remarkable achievement. One thinks that athletics is different. Is it?
Yeah.
It's not as murky as football.
No, we have some issues, but not. I hope not those kind.
Not the same kind of characters.
Not same kind.
Good.
But as you said, it's about politics. It's about money. It's about power. So what we can see is that.
And there's also the male female thing.
Yeah, male female thing. You know. But it's all related.
Yeah.
In the sense that he's been doing this for years. And now that he's the president of the federation, then he knows that nobody can move him. So if he doesn't want to resign, so the government is going to ask again him to resign, and then he won't. Then it's going to be a fight, and it's going to take months, maybe years, and those girls and Jenni Hermoso, they're just waiting, hoping that maybe she won't file a complaint, and that everyone will forget what's happening. And so it's her word against all the system.
Because an athlete's career is shorter than the career of some guy who's in with everybody, got his fingers in the number of pies and is screaming off. Yeah, okay.
And everybody wants the spotlight. I mean, and especially in football where there's so much money involved at some point. Just about the athletics, to make the comparison, we're just coming out of the World Championships in Budapest, where we've seen also so many great achievements, but also the mixture between male and female athletes. I think in athletics, it's way, at least from the outside, I'm not an athlete myself, unfortunately, but what you can see is that also how they celebrate great achievements. There's a real a sense of fraternité, as they say here in France. They're really trying to help each other. That's also disappointing, right, of this whole case now in Spain. How many male football players have we seen really stepping up for this team?
Not many.
I mean, a few months ago, we had Benjamin Mendy released from the prison, and then there were a lot of players stepping up to say, okay, okay, justice has been done. It's quite disappointing to see. Okay, we had David De Gea. There were a few Spanish players.
I'm thinking the case of Mason Greenwood as well in the Manchester United player whose career has been basically finished by the allegations of coercion and sexual assault put against him, which were dropped. Manchester United took a long time to react to that and actually decide that they wanted to end his career. They only did it when there was pressure put on them by women's groups.
Because there's so much money again involved.
Because there's so much money.
He was one of the biggest talents of England, etc., etc. And with Benjamin Mendy, he's not guilty. He's now going to play again. And
he's going to come back, isn't he, in the French league, I believe, yes.
And also for him, it was 2 years of completely destroyed of his life, whatever you may think of the story. But it's for me more about the reaction of the footballing world. I mean, there's so many. It would have been so good if a few of the male football stars who are having a huge public. I'm thinking about Kylian Mbappé. I'm thinking about Lionel Messi. Why not? Yeah. To make themselves heard, and at least, I mean, we're all in the same sporting family, right? And that's, for me, it's a huge difference if you compare to athletics. But the expert is sitting there, so.
Are you telling?
Yeah, I think it's quite different because athletics, we used to compete at the same time, the same competition. But I agree with you. We're talking about the women's Spanish team, and we could wait and expect that the male Spanish team could speak about this case and just support also what happened to Jenni Hermoso. It could be really helpful, and I think it will be. It could help Rubiales maybe to resign faster because if when the male you still have the same subject with power, with money and everything, and the image is not the same in the country. If you talk about the men, people will be more, I think, more invest and more aware of what's going on, and then maybe you won't have only 100 people protesting in Madrid, but you have thousands of people, and it's quite different. It's quite a different point instead of having only women supporting and fighting and saying that what happened is disgusting. It's not only a female or women's problem. It's a society problem. So everybody needs to be involved and everybody needs to speak out of it. Because if you have children, you have a little daughter, you know that she may be faced to sexual harassment, sexual aggressions, and it's not something that we can just move on as if nothing happened. So it's a society problem.
You mentioned daughters. My daughter's a singer. She had an agent when she was 16. The agent was trying to stop her going to university, trying to stop her doing things, trying to control her life. Sacked him straight away. You don't do that to people. It's wrong.
Yeah, you don't do that to people.
My daughter was cross because she wasn't getting gigs, but now she realizes why I did it. Ruben, go on.
No, just to say, because in the Spanish football world, there's now some real support. Real Madrid, for example, is really giving their support to Hermoso and to the team. And there have been some players, but for me, it's more like this should be something globally supported, because we are all involved in it, and it still remains for me too much in the female football world, and that we're only focusing again about this. A lot of people who are also not even follow the whole World Cup. It's really about, we now have a case. Now the politics is all jumping in. It should always be an issue, not only because we see just a kiss. It's now time to, like you say, it's stupid to say, but it's in a certain way it's a moment of hope that we can really at least turn around one federation and clean it all up. And let's hope that the Spanish will do that.
Let's try and get a final word from Sarah Morris, our correspondent in Madrid. Sarah, what's the next move, do you think? There's talk of a possible prosecution on the lines of sexual assault. Is that likely to go ahead, do you think?
It's unclear if Hermoso doesn't want to make a statement. And the latest is that she's consulting her lawyers, that she has been receiving a lot of media attention. She would like to go and train for her team.
Sarah freezing there. We're getting the message, though, that it's all being pushed back to the victim, Jenni Hermoso, the star player who had that kiss forced upon her, to make a statement, to bring the charges forward and to put herself in the spotlight in order to basically prosecute the behaviour of a man who, frankly, as the chief executive leader, president, call it what you want, of the Spanish Football Federation, should have known better. Let's put it that way. Ayodele, the future, how do you see it developing? Because changing that kind of behaviour isn't going to happen overnight.
No, it's not going to happen overnight, but I think we can see that women athletes are speaking out now and saying things and not accepting those behaviors anymore. So I think that mentalities will change, and they won't have the choice to change, because women, we speak out and fight for it. And as we said, it's.
Do you share Ruben's hope for the future?
Because we're not saying it loudly, and we're talking to medias, and people are just saying that this behavior is not acceptable. So that's what we're going to teach our children to. So things are going to change little by little, but it's not going to change in one day.
20 years ago, you'd have been still at school. I was working as a journalist. 20 years ago, that kiss might have been just dismissed as, it's just a kiss. It doesn't matter.
20 years ago, I think it would just have a picture in the newspaper.
And that was wrong.
And
that would have been wrong.
Yeah, but people would have said that, he was happy, and that's nice. He was celebrating with them. Now we're saying that this kiss is disgusting, and it was a forced kiss, it's an assault, and this should change. So we can see that things are changing over years, but it takes time.
It's also... It strikes me that it's patronising. Méprisant is the word in French, isn't it? It's kind of patronising, that behaviour by the big man, the little woman. It kind of belittles what the Spanish team did, doesn't it? It belittles what they did. It reduces what they did.
Yeah, it reduces, and we don't speak about what they did. We speak about the kids, the case, and you said the victim shaming, and we don't talk about what happened during the World Cup. We don't talk about the achievement. We don't talk about the performance they did. We just talk about one man who forced a kiss, and we are trying to know if he's going to resign or if he's not going to resign. And we're still asking this Jenni Hermoso to file a complaint, and everything's on her shoulder. So it's just show that things are moving, because they are fighting together. The teammates are all supporting her, but still we can see there's a big issue, and it's a society problem, so we need to work on this.
Work on society. That's a big one. This is a great message coming through the debate from you. It really is a massive message. Let's talk a little bit about football, because you mentioned how they played, and they did play incredibly well. I watched my favourite team, Everton, scrape a win over Doncaster Rovers last night, and the game was garbage. And it made me yearn for watching the Women's World Cup, because some of the play was phenomenal, I thought. Great stuff. I mean, Sam Kerr, the Australian player, for instance. Maradona.
No, I think what's also really, we can see how the women's game has developed, and that's also helping a lot in talking more about these issues, because before women's football, nobody was watching it. So if there were incidents, even nobody would have even noticed whatever. So that's already a really important thing. You've seen already, again, in another country or two other countries, but especially Australia, how it was completely, it transformed the country. So that's already really important, I think. We talked purely about the tournament. What I liked the most was the fact that the general level is much higher than 4 years ago, for example. The so-called smaller teams, I think about just out of my mind, Haiti, Jamaica.
Jamaica were great, weren't they?
Morocco.
Yeah.
That was really good to see, because before the Women's World Cup was about Germany playing the US in the final. I'm exaggerating a bit, and that was it, right?
It's a bit like the Men's World Cup in Germany.
Yeah, and now there are many more teams coming in. I think that on the top level there's still a world to win, but okay, we want progress, so that's good. It's also really good, I think, that Spain is a world champion, because it shows that the most technical team, the team with the most ability, is now the world champions. That's the team you want to watch, what you have as a world champion, as an example for young girls, also young boys. That's great, and it's the only way is up.
Fine example. Ruben Slagda of Eurosport, thank you very much indeed. Thank you to Ayodele Ikwesan, who is a European silver medalist sprinter. Respect to you. Fantastic. And thank you for all your wonderful contributions during this debate. And thanks to our gold medal winner, Sarah Morris, our correspondent in Madrid. Thank you, Sarah, for your insight too. Much appreciated. Thanks to you all for watching. Stay with us here on France 24. More to come. Thank you so much.